to Lizzie's workshop and this day's Nano Jumo. So after yesterday's crash and burn with the manly birds, I decided I was going to follow just not even think about things, just kind of see where this piece went and took me. And this was a little bit more of a challenge simply because I don't normally do steampunk, and so steampunk's not really my go-to. So I thought I should think about this. I should make a plan. And then after the manly birds, I decided no, there will be no plan at all. So I grabbed a piece of paper and I cut it into squares. One of them was 6 by 6, one is 5 by 5, a 4 by 4, a 3 by 3, and then a couple 2 by 2s. And so that's what I did. And I sprayed them. This is the green, and it is a Lindy Stamp Gang Starburst spray. The color is Rusty Lantern Lime. And so my workbench got covered in the spray as well, and in order to create just a lot of dimension and a lot of different layers of spray ink on these squares, I decided I would keep rubbing them on my workbench. Now, I probably should have washed my workbench first because I ended up with some blue in there. No big deal. It all works with it. This grungy kind of look is what I was going for. So I was thinking about metals when I was creating or picking out my colors. And so one of my colors that I chose was green because when copper goes and into the or gets exposed to the elements over time, it turns this greeny color, and it's not this greeny color, but it is a greeny color. And so I thought, you know what, we're gonna do the copper from orange to green. We're going to do iron to turn to blue. We're going to turn the other one into orange. So I thought, you know what, we're just going to do the all of this and smear it around and keep doing different layers of sprays. So once I feel content with how the green is, I wash my workbench down. And I didn't really like this because what was happening was my workbench surface there, it has a lot of scars and a lot of paint and stuff on it. So what was happening is the shimmer from the spray was getting ground off every time I tried to rub it on the surface. So I needed something more slick and more smooth. So when I do the next colors, I'm going to be using my Tim Holtz craft mat in order to protect my piece of papers. And then I'm just using my heat gun after it to dry it out so that it doesn't curl, and B, I can get more layers on more quickly. So I washed everything down, grabbed this, and I'm going to grab my yellow. And originally I thought I would just use the California Poppy Gold, but I remember one of my other projects for the poppies, I really liked how the Red Hot Poker Orange went with the Poppy Gold. And so once again I took those two Lindy Stamp Gang Starburst sprays and put them together to create this really luscious, shiny orange. And I just love how that came out. And once again, now that I have a more slick surface, I can just do the rubbing and, you know, slap it down and stuff like that. With these small squares, remember to use tweezers or else you burn your fingers off. And I'm not using just a regular heat gun, I'm using like an industrial paint stripper. I always do. I went to a class with Finnabear, and I pulled out my paint stripper, and she says, "Now don't burn your page." And she repeated that several times during the class, but I could tell it was any time she saw me out of the corner of her eye reaching for my heat gun. It's okay, I'm a pro. I've burned many projects. So just layer after layer I'm going to go through until I have the right amount of spattering and texture and stuff on there. And so I feel content with that. I'm going to wipe this down and I'm going to grab my next square. Now the other two colors I did 3 of, but this square is so large I'm just going to do 1 in the blue. And then once this one is dry and it's all the different colors and all of them are nice and dry, I'm going to go looking for a background. Now, I know that I have backgrounds in one of my books. So I went flipping through 3 different art journals to find a background that might work with these colors. You know, normally you would find the background and that would kind of dictate where you were going to go with something, but no, not me. Not me. Not the train wreck. So I go through and I find this background that had been sitting there for quite a while, and it's just one of those junker ones where I had taken the stencils and sprays and stuff like that, and the black that's on there is just the scrape off on the bubbles, Tim Holtz bubble stencil, and it's the charcoal sand paste, I think, from Art Ingredients or Finnabair. And so that's just what it is. It's just a bunch of stencils slapped on there. Just a bunch of stencils slapped on there from their leftover paint and ink. And then I just did the scrape off with the sand paste. Now, for this one, I am using the golden heavy gel to glue this down. And the reason that I chose that is because this surface is already very, very textured, and I needed the paper to stick over top of and become cohesive to that sand. And there's not a lot of like glue stick or you know, regular tape runner kind of glues that would actually adhere to that sand. So in this instant, I really did have to use a wet medium, and I really did have to use a heavy gel so that I could have the gel settle in between the places of the sand and actually adhere to the entire surface. Now what I'm doing here is I probably should have distressed the edge of each paper first and inked the edges of the papers, but I didn't bother. So now I have to do it after the fact. So I'm gluing on the square, and then I'm just taking, once again, my Stabilo All Black and just, you know, just sketching along the edge and then activating it with my water brush. And yes, the colors, the orange and the green and the blue, they are all water activated. So when I'm activating the Stabilo All, I'm activating the orange too, and it all kind of blends out together. So that kind of worked pretty well for most of them. In some of them, it created this whitewash line where the black continued to wash out the orange. But it's okay. It all works out, and I like the effect of it. I've really tended to go towards the black Stabilo All a lot, and part of the reason is that I've never run out of a pencil. Like, I've never sharpened it all the way down to the end and actually used it for that long term of a time. I usually lose it first, or misplace it, or you know, throw it in the garbage or something. So I'm kind of determined to use all of this one Stabilo pencil before I lose it or grab another one. But in addition to that, I do like the effect that I'm getting of that kind of watercolor but permanent medium. So I love that once it's dry, it's permanent and it won't move again. That really makes me happy. It's kind of like an Inktense block in that fashion, where it's water soluble, but then it becomes, it won't move again. Whereas with the watercolor crayons from the Neocolor IIs, I can get them to move again after they're dry. So that is part of the reason I like the Stabilo Alls, because it dries solid, it dries permanent. So I did lay out these squares. You saw me probably. I laid them out the way that I wanted them to go. And then I swept them off the page, and now I'm just randomly putting stuff back on the page. I have no idea how I had them laid out before. I'm just kind of listening to my music, and, you know, there we go. Sure, this can go here. So I have no problem with that. I like how it turned out. It's not a problem. I just wanted to mention that happens quite often. If you watch a lot of my videos, you'll recognize that I just kind of randomly add things to the page after I've already planned out the page. Go figure. When it comes to scrapbooking, I will even take a picture with my cell phone, but that's still not a guarantee that it's going to go back down the way that I had taken it up from. So that's just one of my things. see all these components and I just kind of put them together. I like how they go, and then I change my mind. So there you go. So I am going around all of these too. I do want everything to be nice and smooth, and I don't know where I'm going from here. I'm thinking about steampunk. I really am. But at this point, it's not really steampunky at all, other than the hard sand that's up there. That's nice, and that's black is popping really nicely. And other than like the grungy kind of paint job on each of these squares, I really don't have a whole lot of steampunk going on yet. So I have to decide what I'm going to do, how I'm going to change that, what I'm going to do with that. So thinking about steampunk, I saw, okay, well, I've got these stencils off to the side here, and I'm going to throw them on. And I really like this big circle here, and I wanted that to be a focal point. So I positioned it so that all of that big circle, all that big gear would show up on the blue. And this is one of the effects that I was trying to show in the other video, which I did show, the one where I was trying to do the manly birds. As I'm adding the paste here, it's going to suck the water soluble mediums up through it, so that the paste that is in the gears is not going to stay white. It's going to end up in a lot of places being green or a light blue or the orange, because it's going to suck the water soluble components up into it. Now I really love that large gear, but then I grabbed another stencil, and these I believe are from Artist Seller. I don't know who the actual artist is, but I think they're a collection from Artist Seller. And so I grabbed the next gear and I throw that on there. And then I thought, okay, well, I need sets of 3, so I'm going to have to add this on somewhere else again, and that'll be okay. And then I was staring at this thing for probably half an hour, you know, not directly, but it sat here and sat here, and I thought, okay, well, I can sit here for a few minutes while I let things dry, and I can decide what I'm going to do with this. But I still hadn't decided what I was going to do with it until I sat here going, what else do I have that is predominantly steampunk? And I don't have a lot of stuff, because I really, this is one of my only steampunk projects. You know, I have done the thing where I do an assemblage project and then paint it black and go from there, but that's not this. So I grabbed Quentin. Quentin is always a good friend. He will come and help you out, and he's so handsome, and you know, he has everything together. So I stamp him on a piece of paper. I thought that the paper was a mixed media paper, but I'm not sure. It doesn't buckle, so I'm thinking that maybe it's a watercolor paper because it didn't buckle. But I'm not certain where this paper came from. It was just a sheet that was sticking out of the cabinet, so I grabbed it. So I grabbed my Neocolor IIs because I tried marker coloring on that other one and it was not successful. So I thought, you know what, this is going to be an I love this piece of work page. So I went and reached for my Neocolor IIs because I know that I enjoy working with them and that they are always workable, and if I mess something up, I can always correct it. So I cover his whole face with the color salmon, and I activate the whole thing. And at first, the Neocolor IIs, he's going to be nice and blotchy. He's not going to have any smoothness to his face at all, and that's okay, because with this I'm going to add color and take it away, and add color and take it away. I'm going to add another darker color, and then I'm going to take it away. So it's all about give and take and all the different layers that I'm going to end up with, and I really, really love that about the Neocolor IIs, is that freedom to do that. And they go on so nice and soft and smooth. I really do adore them. I have to say thank you to Tamara Laporte for introducing them to me in Lifebook 2015, because I've fallen in love with them, and I end up going to the drafting store and picking up a new set all the time. Not necessarily a new set of all of them, but the new colors that are in each season. I'm just in love with them. So all I'm doing here is I'm taking another layer of the salmon and I'm layering it in on top of the layer that's already drying, and then I'm going to just liquefy or activate that so that it blends in with everything. And then after I get that in there, I'm going to go through and add a darker color so that I have a gradient of color, of shading in there. So I'm just kind of, every time that as it's drying, I'm just going to go in and blend in any hard lines. And that's why it looks like I'm going over the same spot 150 times, is because if I see a hard line forming, I'm just going to run the moist brush over that hard line, and it's going to smooth it out and blend it out. And I do this over and over and over again, and it seems like I go over the face 100,000 times, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing that once I got the hang of how to do it. And these Jamie Doherty stamps, they're just fabulous for this technique because there's so much character in them already that you don't really need to add a whole lot more. But it's just, I could just stare at most of her faces for hours, which when I'm coloring, I often do. So the color that I added there to give him a little bit of a tan was ochre, and it kind of gives him a yellow color. So once you have the salmon color on, you have to decide if you're going to go towards the yellows, the browns, like the yellows and browns, or the red and browns. So the darkest color is often going to be brown, so you have to decide where you want to take this. And most of the time for tan wise, I often go to the ochre and the yellow browns instead of the red browns, because that's just how I'm drawn, what I'm drawn to. And then I thought, okay, well, while his face is drying, I can't add any other layers or any more highlighting or anything, so I'm going to go and do his hair. So that top meringue up there, that is called russet, that brown. And then I decided he was going to have silver hair, but I could not find my silver crayon. And I know that I have a shimmery silver crayon somewhere, but don't ask me where it is. I have no clue. And so then I thought, okay, well, this is quite a blue silver, or sorry, a blue gray, so I'm going to give him blue eyes. And I just kind of added color and took it away and added it and took away. And because this is such a small spot, it's really easy to add too much color and then take too much away, and then add too much, take too much away. So this was a little bit of a battle trying to get the right tones of color into his eyes, because I didn't want them to be such a dark blue that you couldn't see any detail, but I didn't want them to be so light that they would kind of swam away either. So that's what I did, is I kind of took some in or put some in and took some out and so on. And I thought, I've got this beautiful orange in the background, so that I'm going to put him on, so I might as well give him a bright yellow bow tie. That'll work. So this is actually, it looks like a bright yellow, but it's actually called orange. And then I took some away in order to give it a nice washed out kind of look to it. Now, he's got bluish hair, he's got blue eyes. I'm going to use the same color I used on his eyes, and that blue is called Prussian blue, and I'm going to fill that in on his shirt, have his shirt match his eyes. So, Quentin, the only problem I have with Quentin is that I have trouble keeping him in a dominant male role. I always end up coloring him into this effeminate look, and I have no problem with that because he's fabulous and he's so metro, and he's just exactly what I need him to be for this project and every project I put him in. So what I did there was I colored his lip pink, because even men have pink lips, and whenever I color lips pink, I take a little dab of that same color and I bring it into their face. So sometimes I bring it into the outline of the face, sometimes I bring it into where the eyes are, sometimes I bring it into the cheeks. The majority of the time I bring it into the cheeks, because even men blush, even men have rosy cheeks, And so I almost always bring that red into the face somewhere else as well, and make the lips match in with the face. And this is another place where I am just trying to blend in the harsh lines, because I don't want Quentin to have beautiful blushing cheeks. And as I wash out the layers I have underneath, I decide, okay, well, now I got to fix that. So I'm going to go back in with my salmon. I'm going to go back in with some ochre, and I'm going to go back in with some of that ochre, the darker color in there. And that really brings his tan back to where I want it to be. Now, I end up forgetting about this eye, this left eye here that you're looking down on, because I end up leaving that dark like that where it probably should not have been so dark. But I'm okay with that. I'm thinking maybe the monocle gives a different shadow or something. Or maybe I'll just make an excuse and everyone will believe it because I did it on purpose, right? Right? Yeah, that's what I did. So then I grabbed my gold, and I had my doubts about the metallic gold crayon, watercolor crayon. I really did. And I thought, you know, this is not going to be worth my money. Why would I buy a gold when it's, you know, I have so many other gold things, this is not going to work. And I thought, you know, this is really a vintagey, olivey kind of gold, and I really love it. So I'm just gonna try it. It's this old gold. I'm just gonna try it. And you know, the shimmer on that crayon is just fabulous. And I'll show you that at the end in the still pictures, because that's the only angle I could get. The only way I could show you the shimmer. But I love how gold that is. And I thought, you know, this is steampunk. I can add a gold stripe to his hair. I can add the gold to his monocle. You know, maybe he is a little bit mechanical, so I can put gold flecks in his eyes, you know, and I just kind of let things kind of flow. And I thought, okay, well, I'll cut them out and paste them on the page and we're ready to go. But I'd forgotten to do my black before I cut him out, so I clumsily went through and outlined his whole outline. I outlined a few characteristics of his face just to make things pop a little bit. And because he's so metro, I figure, oh, you know, I gotta give him a little bit of weight underneath his eyes, a little bit like an eyeshadow, but not necessarily an eyeshadow. And I had to give him some eyelashes because men have eyelashes. Right? The key was not to give him these lush, beautiful, long eyelashes. I have a problem with eyelashes on men, and the reason that I have this problem is my oldest brother has the most beautiful eyelashes I've ever seen on a man. And they're these, you know, thick, heavy, lush, dark, long lashes, and they're natural, and he's always had them. And so when I think of a man, I don't think of long lashes, but my brother has them. So I always get this tangle in my mind. Do I give this guy long lashes? Do I give him short lashes? Do I give him any lashes? And you know, guys still do need lashes, so that's what I did, is I gave him some eyelashes. And if it makes him look more effeminate, well, we're already there. I even gave him an earring, a gold earring, to match his monocle. It was perfect. So I added in all these hints of gold, and I added in the black, and I had to go and get my white jelly roll pen to give him that light in his eyes and bring him to life. And I thought, you know, he needs some more white somewhere, so I'm going to add some white stripes in his hair. And then it gives his hair a little bit of a tuxedoed look, I suppose. And as I'm adding white in different places, I'm looking at him going, wait a second. This guy has way too much of a tan. You know, I had made my manly man a little bit too pink. And I'm looking at this guy going, he does not see the sun. He needs to be more white. There's no way this guy's spending hours and hours out in the sun. So I went through and grabbed my white Neocolor II and added my white in. And I did go a little bit too heavy, but this is part of that give and take that I love about Neocolor IIs, because you know, I go in and I add all this white, and it's definitely way too much. And I think, okay, well, I'm going to have to add and take away and whatever, it's okay. So I go in and I add or activate the white and get it moving around his face, and that all works out fine. And then I get to thinking, okay, now that I've activated all the white, I've got too much white, so now I've got to fix that. And all I have to do is blend the harsh lines and in with the colors that are already there, and I've mostly gotten my issue or my problem of going too heavy on the white. I mostly have it taken care of just by blending the harsh lines. So I go through and make sure I've got all that nice and smooth, and then I think, okay, well, he does deserve a little bit of shadow in his face. So I went back, grabbed my colors again, start with the salmon, go into the ochre, and away we go. We get back to where we want to be. And the thing about Neocolor IIs is that I tend to go a little bit darker than initially because I can always go lighter later. And so I tend to go a little bit darker because like most watercolors, they dry slightly differently than what you have put on the page. So they always get that watercolor kind of look to them after the fact. So once again, the page is going to be very bumpy and there's nothing smooth here. I can't use like a tape runner or anything like that for this. So I take that wet medium, that heavy gel, and add that back in there. And I covered up that fabulous giant gear that was one of my, like, practically my focal feature. Now I just replaced it with Quentin, which it is what it is. It works out fine. So I go through and I grab my Stabilo again. I bring everything together by adding some shadows in there. I put a bit of a border on the page. I put a bit of a shadow around Quentin, and then I am off and running. But somewhere between stopping the filming and narrating the filming, somehow I got a roll of washi tape in my hand, and it made me think of the the techno movies and stuff. They have the code that goes across the screen, like let's say in the Matrix or something like that. Well, this tape made me think of that, and somehow I ended up almost covering the whole page with it. But this is what it looks like before the washi tape. And I am very, very happy with this page. I really like where it went. I like how everything kind of pops, and I like how the layers all came together. And I love how the intuitive creating came through, and it reminded me not to plan because I simply don't have enough practice doing it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I just don't like a plan, and I bucket the idea of a plan. So here's the close-up, and you can see that the paste has pulled the colors, the water-based colors, up through it in order to change the color of the paste. And here's Quentin. Isn't he fabulous? Here you get nice and close. You can see the flecks in his eyes, and here it's the shiny, shiny mustache. Fabulous. I love it. And here is my washi tape inspirations. If you like this video, don't forget to leave me a comment, subscribe, and give me a thumbs up. See you again tomorrow.